Hey guys, HaxerTech here for another video, and today we're going to be talking about my personal favorite features on the Galaxy Note 9. So I previously came from a OnePlus 5T, so I had some experience with that device. It worked very well, it was very smooth, and historically I haven't really used Samsung devices too often. So this is coming from someone who hasn't used a Samsung device in a while. And again, I'm not going to go over every single feature that this phone offers. And also there are some of the more mainstream features that you've most likely seen that I won't be going over. So these are just my personal favorite features that I find useful in day-to-day activities. Now the first useful feature that I came across here, it's a relatively small one, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you here, is some features with the recents view. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. If I open up an app, like the Play Store here, if I go ahead and click on or tap on the button here to see all my open applications, you can see here that the view I currently have is this smaller view where I can see each of the open apps and not blown up into full windows. And so in the top right corner, if I click on these three dots, you can see here I have the thumbnail view, which is the traditional view that you usually would see with an Android device, but if I go ahead and click on List View, I can list out all of my applications. Now this might not seem like a really big deal, it seems like a minor thing, but for me personally, I have a lot of applications running in the background very frequently, and so when I'm trying to run through and switch between different applications, it's super handy to be able to have this list view because then I can more easily see older apps, ones that I haven't used as frequently, so it's easier to kind of scroll back through all those apps and find a specific app basically that I'm looking for. If I have 16 apps open and all of them are open for a reason, then it's easier to find the app that I actually want to switch to. So that's one of the first useful features here that I found on this device that is not available on many other Android devices. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the game launcher feature, and this is also a relatively simple one, something that not everyone will use here, but I thought it was a very handy touch here on this device, so I'll go ahead and launch that. And so what's so nice about this is it really makes this device feel like they actually care about gaming on the device. Now obviously on other Android devices, you'll have your games sort of in either a folder or you can access it through your app drawer. But on this device, there's a real focus on gaming, and all of the gaming applications that you download, they're automatically going to appear in the game launcher. And so you have a lot of really cool features here. In the top right-hand corner, if I click on that little person icon or the profile icon, I can see statistics here, which games I've played. I can look at my videos that I've recorded here. I can search through my games. And then if I click on the dots in the top right corner here, you can see I can add games to the list. I can sort them. I have all kinds of different settings here. I can even in the bottom here, you can see I can adjust the game sound, game performance, and if I swipe up, it gives me an easy view of all these different new games and some recommendations and things like that. So there's a real focus on gaming here. Of course, one of the other kind of unique features of the Note 9 was the fact that Fortnite came available with the Note 9 devices. So I actually did get Fortnite on here. I have that here in the top right-hand corner. I've played it a few times and it works really, really well. Gaming performance is overall actually very good on this device as well. It helps having that sort of liquid cooling system that's in the device. But there's just a real focus on it. And so actually, if I even open up, let's just say Fortnite here, that would bring me to the next point that I wanted to go over here, and that is the actual controls in gaming. If I swipe in from the right-hand side here, you can see just for a moment here in the top, there is an icon to take a screenshot. So you can see that. I use my mouse here, this icon here. You also have an icon down here, which if I click on that, gives me some additional game tools controls. I can set it up so that I'm not going to receive any alerts during a game, block during a game. There's additional features. Navigation buttons can be locked. You can lock your screen touches, and you can also start recording or go into more fine-tuned settings as well. Another really neat thing is specific games that do not open full screen on the device. You can actually, it'll give you the option when you first launch the game. If it's not full screen, you just tap and it'll actually reboot the game, and then it'll be full screen for you. So you can essentially make any game that's not already full screen a full screen game, which enhances the experience. And then of course the fact that you have the curved glass helps as well. That's pretty much all of the things around gaming that I kind of wanted to talk about here. So I'm actually going to bring back up my recent apps. Another thing that I wanted to talk about here, which I skipped earlier, is another useful way to very easily control your apps here from your recents view here. So what I missed earlier is basically the ability to easily go through and force close apps. Every Android device does it differently, and there's some convenient ways on other devices to do it as well. But this was just something neat that I found. And also I wanted to mention this because it was something I saw online. A lot of people didn't know how to do this. So it's both a useful feature, but also something that I thought I would share here. So for example, if I wanted to close Fortnite, all I have to do is press and hold on the icon here, like in the little profile icon for the person there. If I just press and hold on it, you can see what's happening here is I get this little info button that pops up to the right. So if I just tap on the info button here, it takes me directly to this screen where I can uninstall it, force stop the application. I can clear my cache and data and things like that. But it's a really easy way to force stop the application so that if it's crashed and it's not loading or whatever way, it's an easy, quick way to be able to force stop it. That's a super simple thing. There are different ways to do it on other Android devices, but just something I wanted to share. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the dual messenger functionality, which I personally do not use, but I do think it is super handy. And I'll go ahead and pull that up right now as well. And so I can actually just in my settings type in dual, and dual messenger pops up here. Now, actually, so this was kind of marketed, I think, towards WhatsApp, but I wanted to mention this particular feature because it works with a lot of other different messengers as well, and I happen to be personally a fan of Telegram. Now, I only have one Telegram account, so I wouldn't use this feature, but for people who want to have multiple Telegram accounts, or maybe they have multiple Facebook profiles, maybe one that's for business and one that's for personal use, for example, it's very, very helpful to be able to have this feature. And you can see all you have to do here is choose which application that you want to use with the dual messenger functionality. And then once you choose one, you'll be able to have two versions of the app installed on your device, and you can use them simultaneously, which is super helpful if you have more than one of these different messengers here. And the cool thing here is that if you have a compatible messenger, then it'll pop up in this list. So you can see that these 4 applications are the ones that I have that are compatible with this feature, but they're certainly not the only messenger applications that are compatible with the dual messenger feature. For example, if I went in and installed additional messengers that happen to be compatible, then I'd have a larger list here. So these are just the 4 on my device that pop up, but it's super, super handy. Another really quick thing I'll just show you here is just a gesture, is the way to take screenshots here. And all I have to do is, you're not going to be able to obviously see this, but I just take my hand, open it up here, and I just swipe with I guess the right side of my hand here. I just swipe across the screen, and what you'll see here is that it immediately pops up with my screenshot. And now what I could do is I could share it. You only have sort of a limited window to do that, but it'll immediately pop up and allow you to share it. And all I'm doing is just swiping across with my hand here. So it's super easy to take screenshots on this device without having to sort of use the combination of buttons on the side of the device. Okay, so another useful feature here that I'm going to show you, let me go ahead and open up my browser here, is to do with the S Pen. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and start off by saying, for the people who find that the S Pen is a gimmick, or for people who don't really see the value of it, I have to say that it is one of the most useful features or most useful components to this Note 9 device, for me at least, especially being someone who uses it for personal use and business use. I find that the S Pen is incredibly useful in day-to-day activities, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But first, we're going to start with one really specific useful feature that I've been using recently. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what that feature is here. So if I go ahead and pull out my pen here, you'll see I get my standard features. So all I have to do is hover over the field here where I want to put in my text. Now I already have the keyboard up here, but if I just tap on that blue icon, you can see in the top here, the little blue text icon, I just tap on it. And now you can see here that I can actually start writing in here, and it's going to go ahead and convert that into digital text to be entered into this field. Now, just to kind of let you guys know here, some of these features I haven't actually explored whether or not they're available in previous devices, like for example the Note 8. Probably many of these features were available in the Note 8. Some of them won't be. But I'm going over just from, again, the experience of someone who's come from other devices. So this is what's been useful in day-to-day activities for me personally. But so here, if I wanted to type in, so if I wanted to search for Google here, and I can click on Go, you can see it's going to go ahead and take me straight to Google. And it's recognized the text that I just kind of wrote in using my S Pen. Now, so one of the more frequent things that I use, and this is another way that I found the S Pen to be super useful here, it's really nice to have, especially depending on the situation, the ability to sort of write out text and for it to be converted into something that I can use here. But more frequently, what I actually use is and this is of course going to depend on the keyboard that you use, but I actually use the pen to more quickly kind of type out things. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if I wanted to type in a sentence, you can see that, so this is just obviously a feature of the keyboard, but so basically having the S Pen here, it's more precise. So when I'm trying to use the kind of swipe style of texting here, where I'm connecting, text to create a sentence, if I'm using my finger, especially someone who has sort of a bigger finger, it's hard to use that feature where I'm connecting the text. And here, let me show you how fast I can go here. So again, I'm just kind of demonstrating this here because using the S Pen, which is what I'm using right now, it's a lot faster to be able to use on the keyboard versus your finger, where you can have a lot more kind of mistakes that you'll make and things like that. So basically, I wanted to bring this up because I found that in day-to-day usage, using the S Pen, it's more accurate, and there are also some cases where I don't have as good access to be able to type with my two fingers, so it's definitely handy to be able to have the S Pen to use with the keyboard and with other different features and things like that. It's something that I use, honestly, almost every single day. Now, the next thing that I wanted to show here is another S Pen feature, and if I click on my tools here, you can see all the ones that are available here. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through a few of these. This is one that's been covered, I think, pretty frequently, so you've probably heard of it, but this glance feature. If I tap on glance, you can see what happens here is it minimizes my window here for my web browser. And so this is for whatever application you have opened, it's going to minimize it into a little window. So let's say, and I've actually used this functionally for a lot of daily activities. What I've done before is, let's say I wanted to send like an email out or something like that. Let me pull up my okay, so let's say I wanted to type up an email or something, and let's say there was some specific information that I had on a web page that I wanted to kind of reference here. So as I'm typing, all I have to do is hover my S Pen over the icon for the web browser here. I'll get rid of that real quick. But all I have to do is hover over this, and you can see it brings up my web browser. Now if I take my S Pen away, okay, so let's go ahead and do like a sample here. So let's say I wanted to type up something in my email here, but there's information on a web page that I wanted to reference, right? So if I hover my S Pen over the web browser here, you can see that I can see all the information that's on that page or that screen, and I can keep it up. So if there was like a an excerpt from a document or something I wanted to use, I could use that. And then when I move my S Pen away from the screen or away from the little window there, then it's going to pop back up to my email and I can start typing away whatever I want to. And I can keep going back and forth just to pull up that information, take it away, and it pops right back. So it kind of saves you from having to go through your recents view to pull up applications from there and things like that. It's just a very quick and effective way to be able to do that. One way that I've realistically actually used this before is I have used it when I was shipping orders. So there was customer shipping information that I needed to enter into a specific field, and so I would just kind of hover over the window where the customer's information was at, and then I would remove my S Pen away from the window and then go type it back into the area where I was trying to input the information. So just a real life kind of scenario where I use that, but it's definitely actually very handy. Then if I just grab this with my S Pen, put it over the remove icon there, gets rid of it. Just a few other things here. I'll swipe up from the bottom here, and the top right, click on these dots. And now here I have home screen settings. So in my home screen settings here, you can see that I have a number of different options. I'm not going to go over all of them, but one of the things that I have found to be actually very useful is here in the bottom, you can see it says portrait mode only. If I just tap on that, and then I go back to my home screen here, I can go ahead and rotate. And you can see here it'll automatically adjust my icons on my screen into landscape mode. And then I can go back to portrait mode very easily. If I wanted to disable this, I just go back. I'll just go ahead and turn on the portrait mode only, but super useful. There's a lot of Android devices out there that natively do not support that feature. Only a few things left here, and so the only other features that I wanted to go over here, first one, which is very simple here, we'll just pull up a web page. Okay, so on this page here, all I have to do is go ahead and click on my tools icon, my S Pen tools icon, and if I go to my translate option here, all I have to do is hover my S Pen over a specific word, and you can see it's going to translate whatever word I hover over into the language that I pick. So that's super useful here, especially if it's just specific words that you're trying to look to translate. Now you can obviously select multiple sentences and things like that, and you can translate it that way, but that's just a super useful feature here. And then the final thing that I wanted to show, which is actually becoming one of my favorite features here, is part of the Smart Select feature set here. So if I click on Smart Select, or tap on it here, if I go ahead and choose a block of text, just choose this here. Now what I can do here is I can either pin this to the screen or auto select it. I can share it, draw on it, which is super useful here. Okay, so from this block of text that I've selected here, I can do a few things. I can pin it to my screen, I can select the text, I can share it, save it, all these different kinds of things, but the most useful thing that I found that you can use from the Smart Select feature set here is the extract text function. It's super, super useful. I can extract text from any text on a web page. If I had, for example, scanned in like a page of a book, or textbook or something like that, all you have to do is select the text from whatever the image is, or anything on the screen really that you want to extract from, and you can see here it's going to convert it into text that I can copy or I can share that text. So it's super, super useful. And this is actually something that I thought was very interesting because OCR technology can be very expensive. There's a lot of applications out there that allow you to do this, but you have to pay for the software. The nice thing about this, and I just did a small excerpt here, but I could actually do a much larger selection of text here. And won't be completely accurate because I have a little interference there. But I can go ahead and click on extract text, and you can see, look at all this. I got all of this text that it's converted for me. And so you can do this for large excerpts, small excerpts, whatever you want, but it's super handy. I can copy and paste it, and it even works very well for links. There's a couple applications I use where it won't let me copy text, and so I might get a message from someone that I can't copy, has a link in there that I need. I can just extract the text for that link, and then it's something that I can just copy and paste into my web browser directly, and then boom, I'm good to go. So super handy and useful feature. Okay, and so the only other thing that I forgot to mention here, but I'll just talk about it here. But so if I swipe up from the bottom here, you can see that I can use my Samsung Pay. And so I have this configured with one of my cards right now. I have it set up so that I can use a PIN or I can use the iris scanner to utilize this card. But this is actually, and I almost forgot to talk about this, but this is actually probably one of my favorite features of the phone. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've actually used this and gotten so many interesting responses from people who have never seen this actually used before. So it's super handy. It works with any barcode kind of scanner or magnetic strip reader out there, so you can use it in places that you cannot use Android Pay or Apple Pay. And it works incredibly fast, super efficient. And then on top of that, something that not everyone mentions is that you also get just a ton of rewards. So every time I use Samsung Pay, I get rewards. There's a ton of promotions and things that I can sort of use here. So you can always go through and see what the current promotions are. For example, right recently I was able to get $30 in rewards using PayPal here, so just linking my PayPal account, making purchases with that would give me some rewards and things like that. So lots of promotions and things that you get just for using the service in general, but for me it's just super convenient to be able to have something that works with almost every payment terminal out there without having to worry about different vendors supporting NFC and things like that. So again, this video is coming from someone who hasn't used Samsung devices in a long time. Personally, after using the Note 9, I think that from what I've seen online, it is super underrated as a device. The only thing that's maybe not completely exceeded my expectations is the camera, which is good. It's a really good camera. It's just not as good as some of the other options out there. Even my wife's Mate 10 Pro takes some really good pictures, and just the software in there, how it actually produces certain effects and things like that, it's really impressive. And when compared to mine, the only issue I have is that there are some occasional hiccups where I don't get a perfect picture. It might take a second before the shutter button kind of takes the picture, so sometimes I might miss something in that sense. I find that a lot of times I'll hold down that shutter button to make sure that I'm capturing a burst shot so that I can go back through and find the best picture to use. So it does take really good, clear pictures, but sometimes you have to take a few to get the best shot, whereas other cameras, maybe, especially obviously Pixel devices and things like that, are more consistent. But I'm not someone who uses the camera as the main feature or part of the phone, so to me that's not as important as the many other useful features that the Note 9 device offers. And probably for the features that are offered by the S Pen alone, I also did not go over the Bluetooth functionality, being able to use it for controlling taking pictures and things like that, which I've used a few times. It's not something that I use super frequently, which is why I didn't cover it, but it's definitely a useful feature. There's just a ton of other things that the device excels at. So those are the main things that I wanted to cover. If there were any other kind of topics that someone wanted to see, feel free to comment below. But that's it for this video. The only other thing that I did want to mention is if you are looking to get a new device, and this is not related to the Note 9 specifically, but I just thought I would kind of mention it there. And there's going to be a link in the description if you are in the market for buying a new device. If you use that link, it does help the channel, so it's much appreciated. But here I just wanted to take a second to give some feedback on Swappa.com, which is where I actually buy most of my devices used, and I also sell my devices here as well. So talking about the Note 9, if you're in the market for a Note 9 but you haven't bought one yet, it's a really great website to be able to get new or almost new condition smartphones rather. So you can see here that there's some people that are selling a new device. They're reselling it. The prices do range, but for me, since I have T-Mobile, I was able to get some pretty good deals, and I've even seen them below $700 here, which is significantly cheaper than buying at the list price of $999. So you can find some really good deals. If you're ever interested in buying a Note 9, lightly used, or really any other device that you're interested in getting, I really encourage you to check out Swap because they have some of the best deals around. But that's it for my coverage here of and review of the Note 9 and some of the best features that I've used so far. Appreciate you watching this video, and I'll talk to you in the next one.